Howdy, everybody. Today is Tuesday, August 9th. The time is 5:30 p.m. We're here for the regular session of the Coppell City Council. There is a quorum present, so I'll call the meeting to order. We will be convening into the executive session in the first floor conference room. At the end of the executive session, I'll come back out and announce our work session, at which time the public will be invited to join us. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. The time is 6:30 p.m. We have adjourned from executive session and we're moving into work session. We're convening in the first floor conference room and the public is invited to join us. Thank you. All right, everybody, the time is 6:32. We're convening into work session. I can't whistle, so I just have to talk loud. We have 4 items on our agenda tonight. The first item, item A, is a discussion regarding our agenda items for the council session. Does any of the council members have any comments or questions on our agenda? I know, I'm talking to a vacant council member.
We're here, we promise.
Actually, had something.
You have a question?
Yes, I have. I didn't realize this meeting was happening.
I do.
Don, this is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Coppell City Council. Thank you for asking.
I'm
Don has a question. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait until regular session to pull agenda item B. I got a question about G. Is this, Mike?
Wait, hold on.
Oh,
You want to
Did you say B? I just want to make sure I understood it.
agenda B, the consent agenda item.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's when we get out there, I guess. But I had a question about
G.
G. Just want to know, is this a renewal or just?
No, this would be new. So in the letter, they have multiple positions that are coming open.
Okay.
And I was nominated for one of the spots. And so they ask if council would do a resolution of support for one of the spots.
And you're wanting it, right?
Well, that would be good, yeah. That's why it's on the agenda.
Okay. That's what I had on that one.
Okay.
Let me see, on A, B. That's it. That's contingent. That's all I had on that one. Sorry. On the consent agenda item.
Don?
On item E on the consent agenda, I just wanted to confirm, this is the fire station contract, the $73,000 or whatever, this tiny amount. Is it already on the ARP list on our,
It was on your list.
it was, okay. I just couldn't remember for sure if it was already, we had already
There was-
earmarked it, we're gonna have to readjust something. Okay,
It was on your list.
okay, that's all I wanted to confirm.
Okay. Anybody have anything else? All right, thank you very much. Moving on, item B is a presentation from the Chamber of Commerce regarding the Discover Coppell Marketing Program. Ms. Ellie Braxton.
Please out. Good evening, council members, and thank you so much. I wanted to come tonight to share with you where we are on the marketing campaign that you guys approved with us back a few months ago. And if I never want our city council or mayor to seek advertising that they don't know is coming, especially since the city's funding it. And so I kind of wanted to run through exactly what it was we were doing and what we have done. And then, of course, in your packet that was given to you is an actual report on the spending. But as you see, it's called Discover Coppell. When I first came to you guys, we were calling it Visit Coppell. We put together a team, a task force at the very beginning of this that looks and approves everything that is going on with this process. As y'all know, we hired a company called Belmont Ice House. They're a marketing firm. They also work with Allen, Texas, South Lake, Austin, Texas, Tarrant County, numerous other communities in Texas. And so working with them, we wanted a group of people that oversaw everything that was happening, and they voted on everything. And so as you see here, we have Daniel Armbruster, who's the head of media and community relations for AAA Texas. We have Elizabeth Domores, who is local, but she has a marketing imaging firm here in Coppell. Of course, Mindy Hurley, who represents our city. Cindy Andrew, who is our marketing consultant for the Coppell Chamber of Commerce. Has her own business called 21 Design, but she also does marketing for other chambers in the community, and was originally with Nebraska Furniture Mart, so she has a great deal of experience in that area as well. And then, of course, me. When we sorry?
Yeah, I think you forgot somebody.
Oh, and Cliff Long. And we asked Cliff to join this group. Of course, he's on the city council, and so, you know, he kind of watches over us in that area. But the primary purpose that I went to Cliff was because he was one of the co-founders of our Chamber of Commerce. He knows a tremendous amount of history about Coppell here. And so we felt that it was really important with him knowing the back history that we have him involved in this task force as well. And so with this task force, we did, well, I'll go through all of it. This is what's in your packet, and so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this page right here because this just tells you where we've been spending the money. But this is actually what we did. Initially, what the firm did that we hired was we had an initial meeting with that group to set our goals of what we wanted to accomplish. They completed numerous surveys and interviews here in Coppell, calling a lot of business owners and residents that lived here to get a feel for what the interpretation was of Coppell. And then through those interviews and surveys, they determined what is the market for Coppell. They then studied that information. They presented that information to us. We have set a marketing plan and a branding plan, and we have started building a website, and advertising for Discover Coppell begins October the 22nd. We went with Discover Coppell versus Visit Coppell because based on the studies that that were done, we felt that they saw that it's a very undiscovered area. And so we are this little jewel in the heart of the Metroplex and encouraging people to discover this area here. What they did find, what our brand will be is we're very family oriented here. We are inclusive and we are undiscovered. Our primary market are the on-the-go families. And our secondary market, of course, are the active enthusiasts, and our tertiary are our empty nesters. And there's descriptions there if you guys want these of what those mean. But the on-the-go families, those are those families that are really busy. They have young kids. They are always, they're involved in sports. They're involved in stuff. They don't want to do anything with their family that wastes their time. Of course, the secondary are the active enthusiasts. We are very outdoor oriented here. And so there's a lot of things for families to do outdoors. What I've been telling folks I'm talking to, if you want to do some minor league sports, go to Frisco. If you want to do some major league sports, go to Arlington. If you want to go shopping, go to Grapevine. If you want to do something with your family, come to Coppell, because that's what we are. And then of course the empty nesters. We have a lot. They have the senior center here, and we have a lot of seniors that are locating into this area. Those are people that are my generation. I hate calling myself a senior, but I am. I fit the category. I'm a boomer, and we are looking for things to do with our grandchildren. And so that's the like I said, the tertiary market here. And so those are the areas that we are going to be focused on. We're highly relatable, we're authentic, we're lively, and we're very welcoming here in Coppell. Honest to goodness, the marketing firm came over here and they spent a weekend here. They had a couple of their folks spend a weekend just, doing stuff here in Coppell. And everyone agrees, and I said it when I first came here 4 years ago, it's like coming to Pleasantville. And, because we don't have tall buildings here, we're not allowed to, we don't feel like we're in the heart of this massive 8 million person metroplex. It feels like you're in this little small town, and you can come here. There's sporting events. We have people that go online looking for walking trails and running trails, and they find Coppell. And so that's what we found as our market, and that's what we're going to focus on. This kind of gives you the age breakdown of what that market is. And then they kind of went through and showed us how we market to those folks. I only shared this page, but I've got more of the stuff if you guys want to see it. But as you see here, the on-the-go families, what I was sharing with some of the folks I have talked with prior to this is I wanted the city council to understand where they're going to start seeing this marketing. And it's not going to be very much on television, because that age group does not get their information from television. This shows you the breakdown of where they get most of their information from. And so these will be the media vehicles that we will be using, that we will be purchasing for this. And again, the active enthusiasts, same thing, 100% of their media comes through social media. And it was fascinating to me to look at that. And then you look at my age group, and 46, or was it 47%, comes from newspaper. 59% of our information comes from television. But since we're the tertiary market, you know, again, you're not going to see a lot of this on television and radio. You're going to see most of this social media, streaming, audio streaming, and stuff like that. And this kind of gives you a feel for what it's going to look like. They gave us some samples. These are all stock photos. I know when they showed them to us, I'm like, oh, well, that's good. But they actually are contracting with the photographer that will actually be here in Coppell doing photography for all the advertisement. This is just stock. But I love the different terms that they came up with, and they love to refer to us as close to perfect, and so you'll see that a lot. But around here we go with the flow, and you'll see more of that. Now, I've had the question of how are they going to report, how are we going to measure this, and how are we going to report this to the board, to the city council, sorry, and to our board of directors. These are the different venues that they use to gather the information. You'll be getting a report on the KPIs for this. We don't have anything to measure this against right now because we've never done this before. So we can compare to other markets, but you know what you're going to see is brand new stuff. And so this is how they're going to be measuring the data. And this is what, well, that's a little off kilter. This is what it's going to look like. That's kind of, I don't think you can fix that either. But this is a sample of one of their reports that they have for one of their other customers. And I'm sorry, it's kind of off kilter. For some reason, when I sent it to her, it must have moved around. But they had blocked out the numbers there because this, again, is another one of their, it's a central health care client that they have. And they had blocked out some of the like budget information and stuff like that. But this is what your report is going to look like. They'll show you exactly what the results are from the different information that they're going to gather. And you'll get that quarterly when we do the regular quarterly reports. You'll see exactly what the results are from that. But again, other than comparing it to other communities, we don't have a lot to compare it against right now, but we will as we get there. We are very excited that the website is under construction. It's going to take about 10 weeks to build that. We have a meeting set up next week with a lot of the different departments within the city to see how we can combine a lot of things that we're doing. And trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to share with you guys. I think that's it for what I have to report on, and I can answer any questions you may have. But again, my goal was for you to, of course, you've got the money there showing you, what we've spent and what we're going to be spending. But I wanted you to see what it was going to look like and what you were going to be hearing when it came out.
John, just wondering, is there I don't know if you actually have it on there, but is there a way to measure the visits, the people that actually came to Coppell to discover what you advertise?
We are going to be measured, well, again, because we don't have anything to compare it against right now. The primary way that we're going to be able to judge is, is the increase in the art center, an increase in the restaurant traffic, and an increase in, farmers market. Literally watching that and measuring how does this compare against what y'all had last month and stuff like that. We also, I just had a meeting earlier today where our website is going to have a trip planner's guide on there, where if someone's coming and they can kind of look around, our website's going to be able to measure how many people go to that website and what they look at. If they're planning any trips here, it'll be able to measure that. And so we'll have that added to it. So that's the only way right now that we have to measure it.
And with the 3 tiers that you talked about,
Mm-hmm.
the draw of those 3-tier groups, with our current programs that we have,
Mm-hmm.
have you looked into what we need to add on, or if it's sufficient with what we have to keep them coming?
You mean what we offer here in
Right.
Coppell? We have a tremendous amount that we offer here in Coppell. I just don't know that in the past we've done a really good job of promoting what that is. There are a lot of sporting tournaments that come here, which brings a lot of traffic here. We have these big corporate headquarters here that bring in conferences and things like that. And we currently have a meeting planner's guide, but we're going to stop using that and start using this new website, so that when they're bringing in these groups of people, that this is how they plan their trips, and that they stay here in Coppell instead of sending everybody to Grapevine. So there's a lot here right now for people to do. Now we have, I think, the only kayaking facility in the Metroplex here in Coppell. And so being able to measure that, I've met with them, and so we're going to be able to try to measure, how much is there. But again, there's a lot of outdoor walking trails and meditation trails, and we have people that call us just looking for a place to go running or for hiking here in Coppell. So we feel like there's plenty for people to do based on the way we're going to market it. So right now, we don't see anything that we need to add. We just need to do a better job of promoting what we do have.
Okay, and speaking of the kayaking, have we worked with them to, I guess there's a lot of people that come from out of city and out of state as well.
Yeah.
But for them, their purpose is Trinity Kayak, right? But have we worked with them to provide some of the information that we have, what we offer in Coppell, that they could actually hand out?
Yes, I have actually gone out and met with them, and Jeff Farnell, who's the owner, is a former chairman of our board, so he's very supportive of our chamber, and he's very excited about this as well. And they hand out stuff already, and so we've talked about, how we drive people from there into Coppell to eat in our restaurants and things like that. Because where they're located, they've got the option, send them to Carrollton, send them to Coppell. And so working with them on getting those folks that are out there into Coppell. So yes, I actually went out and spent an afternoon with them on that. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Everybody happy? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Kelly.
I think it's going to be very interesting to see how this turns out. Like she said, we've never done this before, so we really don't know what our benchmarks are. All right, moving on. Item C is a discussion regarding jail services agreement with the City of Grapevine. Chief Barton.
Mr. Mayor. So this will be pretty quick. I want to give you, bring you up to date on some changes that we're going to have in our jail operations they're going to be, it's going to sound significant, but it's a pretty easy change. So some background is, in September of 2012, we entered into an interlocal agreement with the City of Carrollton to use their jail. We had a jail prior to that, but we had no jailers, so that's a problem. So we fixed that problem by taking them to a jail with jailers. And we've been using their services ever since. And then in December of last year, we were notified by the City of Carrollton that they wanted to terminate the interlocal agreement. I didn't get a reason. They don't really have to give us a reason. But they did give us adequate time. They gave us until September 30th of this year to find another jail. Addison was also using the same services, and they got the same letter I got. So I went out and started talking to chiefs, every chief I could find that had a jail anywhere close to Coppell. All of them went back and talked to their teams. Nobody hung up on me. And so, but where we landed was with Grapevine. I was talking to Chief Hamlin. We have a great relationship anyway. And actually, before I had even made the ask, he just said, "Danny, if you need a jail, I got one." Because they have a new facility. They have a huge jail. It's fully staffed. And so our team started back in May, getting together. Deputy Chief Lujan did all the heavy lifting on this. But we started working out the logistics of how that would look, because Grapevine they've never had another city come into their jail. So we started working on that, and then how are we going to arraign our prisoners, The municipal court got involved, our records people got involved, and so after all of that, it's kind of apples to oranges, but the Carrollton Jail, the way we funded that, all of this is funded out of crime control. The ILA we had with Grapevine, they wanted to do it per person, per day. And so they had a couple of flat fees in there, and then they charged us originally $100 a prisoner per day and went up to 106 a few years ago. Grapevine doesn't want to get into the billing quarterly. They don't want to become accountants. They said, let's just come up with one flat fee. And so what they did is they took our 3-year average of arrests and how they figured it into their cost, I don't know. Deputy Chief Lujan may know more on that than I do. But they came up with a flat fee this year of $121,000, which is well below what we budget for jail operations out of crime control. I can tell you, historically, before COVID, we were hitting around 150,000, give or take. And then COVID hit, obviously, everything went way down because it was per head. I think the 121 is a very fair price, especially for the first year. I just met with the chief of, in fact, I talked to him today on the phone. We'll visit it every year because we don't know how much we're going to impact their operations, and it may be less than they're expecting. So the price could go down. The price could stay the same. It could go up a little bit. But we're well within our budgeted amount. So Grapevine's council is aware of what is coming. They're going to get their presentation next week at their council meeting. We're being told that it's going to go through. Once that is approved, then I will bring our request to y'all at the next council meeting here for approval of the interlocal agreement. And with that, I'll take questions.
John?
Thank you. Chief, I realize this is probably a testing period with 121,000 for the first year, but is this going to be a yearly base every year, or after the first year possibly a long-term? I'm just worried that we might be out of a jail after 1 year or so, right?
So I think it's fair to go a year at a time when we're starting off. Like right now with Carrollton, we were doing 3-year increments. We were doing automatic renewals for 3 years, and in that 3rd year we'd come back and get a renewal. I'm not worried about Grapevine. We have a great relationship with them. They're not trying to make money off of us. They're really trying to do us a favor, and they, like I said, they've been open arms, and I think it's going to be a great long-term relationship.
And how's that going to impact with, I guess, the staff going further than Carrollton now versus?
It's about the same drive time. To get to the Carrollton jail, you got to go through Carrollton. I think we can probably get to Grapevines a little bit quicker because it's right off the highway. They also have some things that are a little bit more convenient for us. For example, there's the Grapevine Baylor is right next door, so if we do blood draws on DWIs, it's right there. And so there's more convenience factors, I think, than we had with Carrollton.
Thank you.
John?
Hey, by chance, the contract ends on September 30th. What if by chance Grapevine doesn't approve it? I mean, is there any chance that would happen? I guess, do we have a plan B?
I can answer
They're
that.
coming to Kevin's house?
Carrollton is not, if we don't have something in place, Carrollton is still gonna be able to service us for
Okay.
jail service.
Okay, so that would be our plan
The
B.
intent by them, though, is to not have us in their jail.
Okay. Do you know how many prisoner days we do currently at the Carrollton jail? Like, I was trying to do the math, and Grapevine's fee is about 750 prisoner days, based on 100 prisoner day. Do you know how many days we have prisoners over in Carrollton right now?
I can tell you our total arrests. I don't know how many days they stay.
Yeah.
I don't have that number in front of me.
Well, that's fine.
We're running, I think, about 300 right now
Okay.
annually, which is, we used to run 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of things have lowered that number, such as, which case changes in the law, certain cases not being accepted by the district attorney, things like that. So
Yeah,
that number could fluctuate every year.
That's 300 per year,
I
right?
think,
Huh?
300 per year, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I think it sounds, I think it sounds like a good, convenient, especially the fact that it's our next door neighbor, makes it very convenient. I think it sounds like a good plan.
Brianna?
Yeah, and just a quick question from a capacity standpoint, how do they compare to Carrollton as far as like cells or however, like, is that an issue at all as far as, like, I don't know how many arrests they have versus what we average and just capacity wise with,
So capacity-wise is gonna be better in Grapevine.
Okay.
They have entire pods that can house several prisoners that have never been opened.
okay,
Carrollton, it wasn't unusual for it to get full, and they would call us and say, don't arrest anybody else.
What? Isn't the Grapevine facility also relatively new?
Just gotta put the right
The
details.
Grapevine facility was built in 2017, and it's a big jail.
because the Carrollton one's pretty old, if I'm not mistaken, or it seems a lot older.
To put it in perspective, Grapevine right now, they're using 15% of their jail just
Oh,
themselves.
perfect, okay,
So they got plenty of room for us.
yeah, I'm good with it, I was just curious, thank you.
Anybody else have anything for the chief? Good luck.
All right.
Thanks, chief.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
This will be on the 23rd agenda.
Third.
23rd agenda.
This will be for, yes, for approval on the 23rd.
After Grapevine.
Yes, after Grapevine approves it. Okay, item D is a discussion regarding legal notices for P and Z public hearings. Councilmember John.
I was actually gonna talk about notices as in general, but since we put it as a P and Z public hearing, are we restricted to just talk about that P and Z? Okay. And then I think, I was hoping that we get a copy of the notice that was actually sent out for Blackberry Farm, but I don't have a copy, so I don't know what went out.
Pretty much what's in the agenda for the consideration tonight.
Okay, so I wanted to talk about this because I realized last time at the meeting, Bob had mentioned that what is required has been sent out. That's great, but it seems pretty obvious that the information that was sent out was not enough for the residents to understand exactly what was being planned.
I can address this. What was sent out was legally required. When we send notice, remember that P and Z is a quasi-legislative function of the council, right? So what the case law is in this field, unfortunately, I was on the losing end of this case called Daly versus Colony in 1982. And what the court instructed us that the notice that's required is the notice of the process beginning, not notice of all the elements of what a particular zoning is. Because if you were to take a notice and say, okay, I'm going to change from agricultural to single family, septic. Well, to follow the conclusion that you all were making about the notice last time, I have to put all the setback requirements. I have to put all the list of the uses, right? That's the kind of notice that you were suggesting needed to be made in this case. The only notices required, I'm going to change the zoning from A to B, date, time, and place. Because it's notice of the process beginning, you as a citizen have the obligation to then find out what will entail that change of zoning. Not to put every element in notice. That's what the case law would say.
No, I get it. I understand you put the required information in there. But that's what the legislature talked about is the minimum, correct? And we can add additional, we
But
can.
then you create a trap for yourself.
But I'm not talking about putting every detail of the I guess, the planning zoning notices, but at least enough for them to understand, because it seemed like pretty clear that the resident that came forward, I think even Councilmember Hill said that he read it and it wasn't sufficient enough to understand what was being done. And
No,
to me,
the notice is to notify you of the beginning of the process, not all the details.
I'm
of
not
the zoning
asking for all
case.
the details. I'm talking about sufficient enough for them to understand what the hearing is about.
The complaint was about the animals. Let's cut to the chase. They didn't say that there was nothing in there about the animals. So if I was put on notice that the lot sizes were gonna change, I could have found out that the lot size was for one of the lots over an acre. I can go to the animal ordinance and say, anything over an acre, I can have livestock. So what were they not notified about?
Okay.
Because that's what the court would do.
Okay, I don't have the notice in front of me, but the way I understood it was that it wasn't sufficient for them to understand what it was actually going to be discussed about. I understand the plan development, you guys put enough, I mean, just enough to meet the requirement, but all I'm saying is it's not enough if we're not providing enough information for them to understand, even say, oh, you know what, this is something that I need to go maybe to look into further, because if it's just a bare information, just minimum requirement, they're thinking, okay, that's all it is, I don't have to look into it further. Whereas if you did actually put additional information, more than just require information, maybe it'll interest them and they'll look into it and maybe they'll come or even voice their opinion as to what they're feeling about that plan development. That's
Were they
what I'm
within
thinking.
200 feet?
Sorry?
Were they within 200 feet, the people that had the complaint?
I don't
Yes.
recall, yes.
Then they have an obligation to go find out what the zoning case. I'm telling you what the court's gonna tell me when I defend this, okay? So,
I'm not asking about defending, I'm just talking about what we as a city could provide information to the residents. I understand we provided enough that's required, but that's just the bottom floor. We could actually add in additional information that would give them more information.
What do you want to, and I'm gonna argue with you for the purpose of trying to understand what it is you want, not that I'm picking on you.
Well, I don't know what was in there. I wish I could have seen it, but
The notice was very similar to what the caption is in this case. So you have the caption in front of you.
I do.
Yeah, it's in the, it's
The
in
one you
the,
wanted to pull.
it's
Huh?
it's in the agenda.
I think that's what he's in reference to. Or that's the one that you wanted to pull, right?
Yeah, it's
No,
B.
no, Bob, years ago when I got on council, we did the minimum by sending out
200
notices
feet.
to it, and I felt that that was inadequate. And I pushed to get that to change to 800 because I felt it impacted more than just the people in that by law 200 feet. And I think we have an obligation to citizens to make them aware of, above and beyond just the absolute minimum of the law.
Then what is gonna be the minimum? What are you gonna decide is gonna be the minimum?
Well, that's,
You're gonna have to write the ordinance. 'Cause-
and maybe that's, part of the discussion.
But if you miss one thing, then you're gonna have to start all over again, start all over again, start all over again. Because what you're doing is notifying them of the process. And you handle zoning cases. When you start this journey, what you end up with is something different. What you can't do is change the use.
Well, let me back up.
So if I put everything in there,
I'm not asking you to put everything in there.
but who gets to be the police? Who gets to decide what the notice will contain?
Well, Bob, I'll even go a step further. A while back, there was a zoning case close to our house, and I made the inquiry about what was going on. And I was told by staff that, they're just asking to allow more storage. Leaving out the key fact that it was storage in the front yard, in the parking lot. Could have been very easily put in the notice that was sent out, that they're requesting a variance to store stuff in the parking lot. I mean, that's a pretty big thing to leave out. And, you know, I drive by that.
But I would argue that the notice worked because you made the inquiry.
I made the inquiry, but I still didn't get the critical information that could have been in the notice. Storage in the front yard, setback, or whatever it is.
But as you know, then things will change over time in that process.
Yeah.
There's the P and Z, then P and Z wants to add a condition. It's not in the notice. And then you gotta start all over.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have that, and then you're gonna have the cost, and you're gonna have the delay. And if that's okay, then you can head down that road. I'm only arguing with you to make a point so that you have to understand you're gonna have to decide. You can't ask the staff to decide what's gonna go in the notice and what's not, and what's important to you may not be important to anybody else.
Yes.
And if you didn't get the information that you needed, then I'm not the manager and I'm not the planning department, so I can't speak to that, so I don't know.
Brianna?
Well, and quick question, I think this is for Councilmember Hills and John. In this particular situation, because I don't remember the notice either, but, and I think you got it. Did you get it from where
I
you
did.
live? Okay. Like, I guess, what would have made it sufficient notice, just to help understand, right? Where that it's not too much, but just enough to have what we needed for that particular case. Because I know we had several people that came up and that also said they didn't feel like it was sufficient notice. And so,
Increasing lot size to 1 acre allows for livestock. Very simple.
But that's an interpretation of the animal ordinance, not the zoning ordinance.
Yeah, but how does a layman,
Well, we're all presumed, I hate to say this because it sounds so arrogant, we're all presumed to know the law. And I'm gonna tell you what the court told me and you daily. They said, the job of the city of the county was to notify your client, Mr. Hager, that there was a process. It's up to them to go find out what it is. So,
So,
what may be important in any given zoning case is up to whoever shows up to complain about it. There's no way to anticipate. In this case, let's just talk about Blackberry Farms because it's, the elephant in the room. The reason that whole thing came forward was because Terry had, an American bald eagle nest on his property. And it never come up. So he wanted to change it, save the nest, so we had to move this, saw an opportunity, put those extra buildings on there. When we worked on that with him, I never in my wildest dream thought that anybody would care about a llama. I want to be honest with you. There's no way I could have anticipated that. And that's the difficulty that staff would have, because it'd be very difficult to write what the notice requirements would be for every different case is going to be different.
yeah,
That's the problem. Now, if we have a problem getting the information, maybe I think what the staff want to talk to you about tonight is we'll put a link with the file on it, and they can just access it.
yeah, even something like that, and also maybe even link to where they could actually have a better act without having to search so much. And some of them are not. I think one person talked about they can't dig. It took a long time for them to look into it and find out information. And I know
That's
we're
why
not.
the process is not just the night of the council meeting, but it's it's a 45-day process. We have to publish the notice, and you gotta have a P&Z meeting, and then you have the council meeting.
I mean, you had a good point
Yeah.
there about a link. I mean, if on the letter there was a little QR code that you could just point your camera at,
Yeah.
boom, it opens it right up. Or even on the sign that they place, which Terry sign was placed parallel to the road. So, and I never saw it. I drive by it every day. So, I mean, I don't know if we changed the ordinance so it has to be perpendicular so it's more
It's
visible.
supposed to be seen from the public right away.
Yeah.
Whatever that means.
Yeah. So, and there were, there were always lots of cars parked there.
Or
So,
the workers move it. And it's
yeah.
just,
So, but I mean, that's all water on the bridge. I'm happy with the decision we made for.
Maybe the
but-
way is to access the information, not worry about the notice so much. Because the notice should put you on, whether you have a Q code or not. But I don't want to speak for the manager, I don't know, because they have to do it. But that would be one way to alleviate that, your concern.
Yeah, I'm just saying that, you
Focus
know.
on the notice as much.
Right, I'm just saying that I know there's minimum requirement that we put, but
Now, the other thing is the file will change over time because there'll be communications between. So it's not, when I fill out my application, okay, now the staff corresponds with the property owner, gets information from me, gets information from their coworkers, from other staff, so that file is constantly changing. We need that.
I gotta,
So, when you have all that, I'll be quiet, sorry.
I'm struggling with this because I understand your point, and I understand your point, and I understand his. And I'm sitting here thinking, man, we're getting ourselves into a conundrum. Because in your case, or who was it brought up the animals, whoever.
I did.
You did, you did. Fair point, but then, so we opened it up to an acre. How many other things does the 1 acre open up? Can we put an oil and gas well there? I don't know. You know, I think that's where I'm coming from with him. You know, just that change, you know, then if I'm concerned about oil and gas wells on that piece of property, I need to go look it up. And I hope we don't allow oil and gas on 1 acre, but I don't know.
Well, there's a foot separation
Okay,
when you can have an oil and gas well.
well then, probably not in this area, but.
If you take this, you can see it's not easy being a lawyer, right? Finally, someone, I'm getting my due. There's 86 volumes of books and statutes, and but you expect me to be able to go find it. So, I'm just saying,
So, if we came down, how would we, I like the link idea. So if we put we already have, the information is on a city website for every case. Granted, it's not easy to find.
that's a problem.
So if we put on a notice and said the case file will be at Coppell
Put the exact link, yeah.
would that be sufficient?
now do I have to put a disclaimer that the information that you have today may not be the information?
Well, that's fine too, but at least give them
And check
something,
back-
right?
And check back regularly for updates.
And the reason why this was also more important, I think, is because this is a change from what was originally approved. So the people that were actually there, that's going to be, you say you don't care, a llama is right next door, right? But to many people, it does.
I know, but I'm sitting here, if I'm the staff, how do I know what's gonna make you crazy?
Make you crazy?
All right, so if it's in there, because that's what the applicants put in there, that's on them, I give you a link. But I would argue, what the judge would tell us is, well, Mr. Hager, they showed up to the hearing, didn't they? Yes, sir. And they got to voice their opinion about the llama, yes, sir. And the council voted for the llama anyhow. What's the problem?
The point is, I don't know how many others didn't show up because they didn't fully understand what the notice was. That's the problem.
That's true of every notice that goes out, isn't it?
No, but this is...
No, if I don't show up, is it because I didn't understand the notice or I didn't care?
No, you don't know.
But your obligation is what?
At least
To come to the hearing and voice your opinion.
But
If you
if you
don't-
give them enough information, it'll give them information where if that's concern of them, that at least it'll make them react to the notices. But if we just put bare minimum, then I think that we're not doing our job providing as much information that we could have, that kind of given them the initiative to think, okay, is this something that?
It's public record.
Well,
So if we put a note in the notice, it says, for more information, see this coppelltx.gov/site.
But what's that, I just want you to have the expectation that that file's not static.
Understand?
right, and we could even put that disclaimer as well, saying that
So,
it's changes, constantly changes, and you need to go ahead and follow up, or,
so if Terry would have never said he wanted a llama, but said he wanted some kind of livestock there, we would have never known what it was. Until the night he shows up at the council meeting and says, one of you ask him, well, what kind of animals you gonna have? And you're gonna have a llama. And no one says, no one told me about a llama.
yeah.
Okay.
Kevin?
I just want to say, John, like, I hear what you're saying, like, I definitely understand. I just struggle with the concept of, I know that you're trying to get more people involved and educated about the process, but at what point do we know what type of notice is sufficient to make sure everybody knows what's going on with that? Like, and I think that's what I go back to is that, as somebody said earlier, you may put something in that notice that may resonate with one resident, but then it doesn't resonate with the other. So then you start listing more and more. And I get the fact that you want to go to a link and stuff like that, but I just struggle with what type of notice is going to get people involved, because I think that's the spirit of what you're trying to say, right? Like, what type of notice or what type of wording in that notice is going to get people engaged to know what to go ask in the process. Is that right?
It's not even so much of the wording, it's the information, enough information for them to understand what it actually involves, right? I mean, you remember even Mark said, I didn't even realize what was in there when he got the notice. Same thing with all the people that came. I don't know how many others that actually got the notice are thought, it doesn't concern me because there's not enough information for them to understand what exactly it is. All I'm saying is, I understand what you're saying. You put in there enough as required, but if we're able to go and put more information for people to understand and be able to decide whether they want to go more or look into it more and actually attend or voice their opinion, especially when we're changing from the original plan, they're coming back with the original plan change, I think that's going to affect them one way or another. Then we should provide as much as we can. And I get it. You're saying that there's certain things that, I'm not saying put every detail. Let's face it. I mean, you can't. I know.
I know, but what's the cutoff? That's what I'm struggling with. If I this ordinance is this thick.
Yeah.
I mean, there's exhibits and, no, you didn't show me a picture. If you don't know what the setbacks are, you don't know where and so that's what I'm struggling with. Maybe the thing to do is say, this changes zoning from A to B, the details are contained in the city's planning and zoning file, and here's the link. Now, I'm a lawyer, I'm not city manager, and I'm not the planning department, I'm certainly not Mindy's boss, so, but does that helps, okay, let's say that helps. But it's not a static file, and maybe that's all we can do. You get the same information that I got, no more, no less. And then if you hit on the file today, there may be something in there tomorrow that you need to hit the file again. But I don't know the logistics of all that. I'm writing a check I can't cash.
Don?
When staff has to field, because staff fields the calls, right, that come in response to the notice, so what does staff usually communicate to whoever's calling in? Like, actually a lot of the detail, or do they just say it's at the next P&Z meeting we're going to discuss it, or what? Because it seems to me, to your point, unless you're going to every P&Z meeting all along the process and the city council meeting, however many times it comes before council, that's the only way you're going to know everything that's in the change, right? Is if you come to every meeting. And I don't know if it ought to be on staff to have to summarize appropriately exactly what's happening in the middle of the process.
They didn't get
Right.
accused of not telling you everything.
Well, that would be my concern, because animals wouldn't even come up on Blackberry Farm, right? Because it was not an animal, there wasn't a change to
It's
the
a
acre
very-
animal.
Yeah, it's accessory use. It's
Um,
just something that he wanted, a goat or something.
So does staff just communicate, like, where it's gonna get discussed, or where the application's gonna get discussed, or what gets communicated when somebody calls in?
Yeah, so I don't want to speak for Mary and that, they can answer better, but it's, yes, they try to cover the details that they believe are important to the zoning change. But that's why we recommended that, so that we don't, accidentally leave something out, because as Bob said, there are certain triggers that we wouldn't have realized we needed to put, that 1 acre then triggers that you can have livestock necessarily. So if we just do a link to the P and Z packet as well as a link to the city council packet, because usually the changes between P and Z and council, because P and Z will set conditions, or they will put, they'll make changes that then affect
They'll
the file.
Add a condition or strike a condition.
And so we feel like the safest way to provide the most accurate, up-to-date information is to then just put the links, encourage them to come to the public hearing notice, but to put the links to those packets so they can have all of the information, and those, just like the city council agenda, those are available 72 hours prior to the meeting. In the meantime, they can call and talk to staff, but also encourage them to attend the public hearing, so that would give them the most current and accurate information about the entire case. That's the memos, that's everything.
Kevin?
And just another question, so you said, so that process is a 45-day process of going through the notice and all that, but you said the packet isn't available until 72 hours before the meeting. So would that just be like
Council meeting.
would that just be like a quote-unquote kind of a dead link until that packet is available, but then they know that 72 hours before you go to that link and then you get everything that we get or P&Z gets when it's available to everyone?
That's correct.
Okay.
And again, if it's on property that's close to my home, I think I would go that step to make sure it isn't impacting. So that's just where we feel like we are the most comprehensive, gives them the most current comprehensive information, so that we don't accidentally leave something out that we wouldn't have known would have been a trigger necessarily.
And this is an easy lift for staff to be able to accommodate that and get people more information?
We believe so.
Okay.
Just one more comment. It almost seems like you're incented to provide less. Like when they call staff, you actually don't want to give them any information lest they think that's all the information. Like you want to, you almost want to point them to, like if I told you X, Y, and Z, but then ABC also was there, but I didn't mention that to you, but it was relevant to you, they accuse you of leaving something out. So it's almost like you're incented to actually say less and just point them to the actual data.
You don't know what you don't know.
And so getting them to be engaged with P&C meeting or the council meeting, or wherever it's being discussed in public, it really is the best option.
It's
right?
on television.
It's the most complete option.
Most complete option.
Yes, the most complete option at least. They're gonna know what we're gonna know, I guess.
But even if you looked at the packet, you wouldn't know that next step to the animal ordinance. I mean,
Well, that sort of popped up in our meeting, right? I mean, it became sort of this issue just out of the blue, right?
Yeah.
That we didn't
And there
anticipate.
was actually no reason for him to even bring that up, because it wasn't part of the, ordinance.
yeah.
If he hadn't asked for that one variance, it wouldn't have even come up. So,
Did you have your hand up?
Nope, I'm good.
I thought I saw some, okay. John? You got it? Okay. Anything else for Bob or John?
So we're gonna publish the notices, we always have, but we're gonna put a link.
To both the P&Z packet and to city council.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Now, also, I'm not arguing with you because I disagree with you, I'm arguing for a reason.
Well, I don't think you're arguing with us at all. It's just, I mean, because
I know, but-
what we're trying to do here is very,
No, I
mean,
get it.
It's so broad reaching, I mean, where do you draw the line?
I like, this is passionate discussion.
Yeah.
All right, the time is 7:28 PM. We are at the end of work session. We are adjourned, and we will move into the city council chambers for the regular session beginning at 7:35.
So it's 3 items.
3 items.
We know our limit.
Good afternoon, everybody. We have just adjourned from work session, and we will begin our city council meeting at 7:35. Thank you very much.
start doing all the analysis and determine.
Good evening, everybody. The time is 7:35 p.m. We're reconvening into the regular session of the Coppell City Council. Welcome and thanks for being here. We do have a couple of citizens' appearance and a public hearing tonight. And if you are wishing to speak, please sign up at the kiosk outside the council chambers door. You must sign the appropriate register and list your residence address. Item number 4 is our invocation. Pastor Semesh Jacob of the First United Methodist Church is here for our invocation. Then we'll recite our Pledge of Allegiance, so please remain standing. Pastor Semesh.
As we gather for our meeting and we begin with prayer, let us spend a moment in silence, continuing to remember the situation of war in Ukraine, for the loss of lives and destruction in the cities, towns, and villages, and for the refugee crisis. And let us also remember the threat of war on Taiwan. Let us pray. O God, you have made us in your image, and by your Spirit you work to redeem us through Jesus, your Son. Look with compassion on the whole human family. Take away the arrogance and hatred which infect our hearts. Break down the walls that separate us. Unite us in bonds of love, and work through our struggle and confusion to accomplish your purposes on earth, that in your good time, all nations and races may serve you in harmony around your heavenly throne. So guide the nations of the world into the way of justice and truth, and establish among them that peace which is the fruit of righteousness. You are the source of all wisdom and understanding, and so be present with us who take counsel here in our city's council meeting to continue doing the work of our community. Bless all these who gather, that they may consult together for the common good. Direct their thoughts and words, concerns and deliberations, that all their decisions may be pleasing to you and may be for the welfare of all in the city of Coppell. Through Jesus Christ our Lord we pray. Amen. Thank you.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Item number 6 is our citizens' appearance. Persons wishing to speak must sign the register and list their residence address. Each speaker must state his or her name and their residence address. Presentations by individuals shall be limited to 2 minutes each. An individual speaker time may be extended for an additional 2 minutes with the approval of the majority of the council. Persons signed up to speak will be called in the order that they signed up. No personal attacks by any speaker shall be made against any member of the council, the mayor, individual group, or corporation. There will be no comments or deliberation from the City Council due to the requirements of the Texas Open Meetings Act. Once the timer sounds at 2 minutes, the City Secretary will cut in and break and make a request to the Mayor and Council if they would like to extend the speaker's time to an additional 2 minutes. We do have 4 people that have signed up tonight. Person number 1 is Ms. Barbara Bailey. Barbara? Please state your name and address.
Sure. Barbara Bailey, 232 Plantation Drive. I am back about the ADA curbs on Plantation Drive. They are still there, and they are still dangerous. And I would like to point out just 2 things tonight. That one is when you read the TxDOT publication, it says the kind that you put in return curb style, and they can only be put in if people don't normally walk across a ramp, which we have kids, people walk across all that stuff. And then, or it's substantially obstructed. The only way you could substantially obstruct the corner is to build those giant curbs that you built. So you built something to have it obstructed so you could put a return curb in. It makes absolutely no sense, and they're still dangerous, and somebody's going to get hurt. And the other thing I would like to say is that I was at your meeting 2 weeks ago at your work session, and someone asked the city attorney if the city was liable if somebody got hurt, or some version of that. And he responded by saying the city didn't have a duty to make it safe, and the residents use the sidewalks at their own risk. And quite honestly, I think the number one job you have is to make us safe. You know, you want to build a fancy building, fine. You want to have another park, fine. But I think the number one thing is to make us safe, and that just really upsets me. And I'm sure my 2 minutes is up. And I would like you guys to remove those and put in something that's safer for everybody that lives there.
Thank you very much. Next up is Mr. Joe Purcell. Joe? Thank you for being with us tonight. Please state your name and address for the record.
Joe Purcell, 249 Whispering Hills. I'm here today to talk about the sidewalks on Plantation Drive. They are dangerous and should return to the normal style of ramp that is in all the cities surrounding Coppell. The new ramps do not take into account residents with prosthetics or wheelchairs. From what I've been told, their new ramps are directional, mainly for the blind. Yet halfway down the block, there is no ramp to cross, and they have to go to the next intersection to cross. As you are aware, the block can be long, and it's hot in Texas most of the time. In conclusion, I would just say that if you had a loved one that was blind, you would not want them crossing any street in Coppell on their own. The reason is the non-existing policing. If you go to the police station after 5 or at weekends, there are always more police cars in the parking lot than out on the street. And you have to remember the crime is 24/7. Which brings my last question to Chief Barton. In the wake of the Uvalde school shooting, are there any plans to bring more police officers early, come in early and stay late to police school areas and events? Or does he think it will never happen here? Thank you.
Thank you for your attendance tonight. Our next speaker is Dhruv Chittaprolu. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Dhruv Chittaprolu, 457 Hidden Valley Lane. Distinguished guests, distinguished mayor, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to ask you all a question. What do you use your gun for? The Second Amendment says everyone has the right to keep and bear arms. This right does not mean you have to shoot anyone that you think is suspicious, but use it as if you were treating and handling a dangerous knife or a car. But recent mass shootings like Uvalde in southern Texas and Buffalo in New York have questioned the purpose of a gun. Many teachers and children fear of a mass shooter coming right at their door and causing harm and chaos to communities. This is unquestionably a public safety issue and needs to be addressed urgently and swiftly. Our government may have passed a bill that may have been the most significant in 28 years and includes some sensible solutions to help curb the problem, but more work needs to be done. 2022 should be the year that I believe that we will see major reforms in curbing the problem of gun violence. In addition to background checks and red flag laws, we may need a gun licensing program similar to how Japan does it, that ensures the responsibility and safety in every person who owns a gun. Also, we may need a government buyback program of AR-15s and AK-47s. These weapons are a mass shooter's favorite treat.
Sir, the time has expired.
Okay.
You have another 2 minutes if you'd like to go ahead and speak some more.
All right. These weapons are, if owned and used irresponsibly, it may lead to many lives being lost. Finally, we may need to implement peace education in American faculties to prevent people's minds from turning aggressive. Peace education will teach people how to calm down if they're feeling or aggressive. And some strategies may include meditation, breathing exercises, cool exercises, physical exercises, all of that stuff, etc. Of course, there are other solutions that I want to talk to y'all today, but I don't want to waste time here. Remember Uvalde, remember Buffalo. Don't end up being a dangerous city, let alone a nation. We must rise up to this challenge and fix it before it becomes even worse. If we take these solutions that I just mentioned, then hopefully we will start to see less and less mass shootings. Thank you.
Thank you for your preparation, your attendance, and your passion. We appreciate your time. All right, item number 7 is our consent agenda. Our consent agenda is typically, I'm sorry. We have one more person that had signed up to speak, Jason Dugan. He asked not to speak, but he did want to be on record as the dangerous sidewalks. Mr. Dugan, if you had changed your mind about speaking, you're welcome to come up. Thank you. I'm sorry I saw the not speaking, so I didn't say anything, so sorry about that. Okay, item number 7 is our consent agenda. This is generally routine in nature and generally enacted in one motion. These items have been previously approved through the budget, past council action, or other action. Any item may be pulled and considered separately. Full descriptions are available and are scrolling through the screen. Council, is there any item that you would like to see pulled from the agenda? Councilmember John.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to go ahead and pull agenda item B.
Okay, item B will be considered separately. Are there any others? I'll consider a motion for the items A through G, less B. Councilmember Carroll.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve consent items, number 7, consent agenda items A and C through G.
Thank you. Second by Councilmember Long. All in favor?
Long, Carroll, Neville, Dunn, Matthew in favor, none opposed, motion carries.
All right, thank you. Item B is consider approval of an ordinance, and I'm going to let Ms. Mary Perone Boswell speak to. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, Councilmember John, did you have a particular question on item B?
Thank you, Mayor. It's not a question. I just want to make a comment about agenda item B. This is the same agenda item that we discussed last meeting, and because a number of residents believe that the notices that they receive was not sufficient enough for them to understand what the plan development changes are, and with that, that's the reason I'm going to go and vote against this again.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Council, any other comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion at this point. Councilmember Nevels.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve consent agenda item B.
Have a second by Councilmember Carroll. All in favor?
Long, Carroll, Nevels, Hill, opposed? Dunn, the motion carries.
Thank you very much. Item number 8 is considering an ordinance appointing presiding municipal judge of the Coppell Municipal Court of Record Number 1 of the City of Coppell and authorizing the mayor to sign. Ms. Chavetta.
Thank you, Mayor. Did you want me to read the ordinance as well? I don't have that in front of me.
No, I read it into the record, so you're okay.
Okay. So I just wanted to let you know that because we did have one of our presiding judge, Primrose, who resigned from the Coppell to take a position with another city, we also had 2 well-qualified judges who we interviewed for this position, and we are here tonight to recommend the appointment of Judge Sandra White as the presiding judge for our court. And I'll take any questions if you have them.
Council, any questions? Then I believe a motion would be appropriate at this point. Councilmember Hill.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve item number 8.
Seconded by Councilmember Carroll. All in favor?
Long, Carroll, Nevels, Dunn, Hill, in favor, none opposed, the motion carries.
All right, thank you very much. So item number 9 is taking care of item number 8. So if Judge White will join me down front. This is your deal. Any which way you want.
This is fine with me, thank you.
Would you please raise your right hand? I state your name.
I, Sandra White.
Do solemnly swear to faithfully execute the duties.
I, Sandra White, do
Solemnly swear.
solemnly swear
To faithfully execute.
to faithfully execute
The duties of.
the duties of
Presiding municipal court judge.
presiding municipal court judge
Of the city of Coppell.
of the city of Coppell,
State of Texas.
state of Texas,
And will to the best of my ability.
and will to the best of my ability
Preserve, protect, and defend.
preserve, protect, and defend
The Constitution and laws of the United States.
the Constitution and laws of the United States
And of this state, so help me God.
and of this state, so help me God.
Congratulations, Judge.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Thank you all.
Would you have anything you'd like to say?
Just one couple of words, Mayor. Thank you. I'm glad to be back here at the city of Coppell, being voted in as the presiding judge of the city of Coppell Municipal Court Number 1. I wanted to just thank everyone who showed their vote of confidence in me, the mayor, the honorable members of the city council, the city manager, deputy city managers, and I specifically want to acknowledge here today, because I was so shocked, they surprised me and came to the swearing in, the clerks of our court, municipal court number 1, if I could get them to stand and be recognized, because they're here at 8 o'clock at night supporting me, and I appreciate their wonderful support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and it's always nice to have members of the court here. We'd much prefer to see you here rather than in your place of business. Yes, sir. Councilmember John.
Thank you, Mayor. Judge White, congratulations, and I just want to say that although all of you might not think it, but a lot of the courts, when people go to the court, they're kind of in a distraught mode because they're there for some reason that they don't want to be. So just want you to know that you are the face of, I guess I would say, to Coppell. So just know that, and we hope that you will exceed the expectation of when they first come to Coppell and to the court more than they would expect from going any other court. So hopefully you'll continue that tradition. I think Judge Primrose has done that pretty well, so hopefully you guys will do that continually. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember, and we will definitely do that.
Okay, item number 10, I'm going to ask Kim to start her way down here, is consider approval of a maximum proposed tax rate of .518731 for the 2022 tax year, and to set a public hearing on the budget and proposed tax rate for the regularly scheduled City Council meeting on August 23rd, 2022 at 7:30 p.m. I had a comment to make here. This item for consideration tonight is to set the maximum tax rate that the council will approve on that August 23rd. The vote tonight does not codify that rate, but only sets the maximum rate that the council may consider. The council will vote on the actual rate on that date of August 23rd. There has been some misunderstanding in the community about what this historic low tax rate means. This rate is 2 cents per hundred below the no new revenue rate. I need to repeat that since we have received multiple requests from the public to not exceed the no new revenue rate. And again, this maximum rate is fully 2 cents below that no new revenue rate. We do apologize for any confusion, but the budget language that we are required to use is dictated by state law. And this is written by your very own legislatures down there in Austin. We could put it in plain English, but that would be very understandable, but unfortunately would not conform to state law. The long-range planning and vision of this city council and staff is paying off, as this council is able to offer a historic budget with a tax rate lower than anything that this city has ever been able to offer, which incidentally is 2 cents below the no new tax rate. Ms. Tien, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. I don't know that I have much more to say other than to reiterate what the mayor has said. And this is, you are voting on the maximum tax rate. You are not voting on the tax rate this evening. It is required by Senate Bill 2 that you do this. This allows us to publish the notice of meeting to vote on the tax rate in the newspaper. And that is really the purpose of this item this evening. The rate, as the mayor stated, will be .518731. That will be the maximum tax rate that is included in the publication. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Carroll.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Tien, do you mind, I know so we have the different rate calculations we've come up with. So we have the maximum one that you just read here, the .518731, the no new revenue tax rate, and I think the other one's called the voter approved rate. Do you have those rates?
I do. The no new revenue rate is .519193, and the voter approval rate is .518735.
Okay, so both those rates are above what we're saying is going to be our maximum here also.
Yes, sir.
So, okay, thank you.
Do I have a motion? Councilmember Hill.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve item number 10, please.
And a second by Councilmember Neville. All in favor?
Long, Carroll, Neville's, Dunn, Hill, in favor, none opposed, the motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Tien. All right, well, Matt is making his way to the front. This is item number 11. It is a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing and ask Matt to read this item into the record.
Mayor, Council, good evening. This is a public hearing to consider approval of case PD 250R26H, Old Town Edition, Lot 4R, Block D, a zoning change request from PD 250R8H to PD 250R26H to approve a detailed site plan for a 10,215 square foot two-story mixed-use building with retail on the first floor and 2 residential units on the second floor on .25 acres of land located on the west side of West Main Street between Houston and Travis Street at 767 West Main Street at the request of Diana Ahmed, being represented by Bill Peck, William Peck Associates. This property is located on West Main Street across from the Old Town Pavilion, just south of the property that's currently under construction. The conceptual plan for this area was approved in 2011, which showed this lot as retail. This is one of the final lots to be developed, which will complete the west frame of the square. The only remaining land is the land to the east of Twisted Root. The applicant's proposing to construct a 2-story building with retail on the ground level, speculative retail, and 2 residential units above. This is a mixed-use product similar to the George Coffee and Provisions Shop to the north, although this one, the George has a restaurant on the first floor and residential on the second. This one has retail on the first floor with residential on the second. The project is very similar to the project that's directly to the north in use and architecture, but slightly larger in size. The first floor of the building is proposed to contain 3,134 square feet of speculative retail space, and this is proposed to have a covered storefront facing West Main Street. To the rear of the building, there are 2 separate stairwells and garages, one for each of the residential units. Second floor is proposed to contain a total of 4,612 square feet for 2 residential units. Within the parking chart submitted on the site plan, it shows that the total overall for the master plan development that contains the Old Town Main Street project has 889 required parking spaces, and there are 1,014 provided. And those numbers include this project. Each of the residents will have 2 enclosed parking spaces that will be accessed off the alley at the rear of the property. One of the garages was increased in size from a 1-car garage to a 2-car garage based on the Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation, and that's reflected in your packet. In addition, they'll be constructing 4 driveway spaces, 5 additional spaces in the alley on West Main Street, and there already exist 9 parking spaces that were constructed with the original infrastructure out in front of this project. Second floor is proposed to contain a total of 4,612 square feet for 2 residential units. That's roughly 2,300 square feet per unit. In each unit, conceptually planned, are 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a kitchen, dining area, living room, utility room, and 2 doors that open out onto the balconies at front West Main Street. The main proposed material for this building is brick. The main color will be brown, and there'll be a gray brick banding that separates the retail from the residential. This banding is also found along the top of the parapet portion of the building. Each of the second floor residents will have a balcony that extends along the front of the building over the ground floor porch area, and there's 5 black metal awnings proposed on the front elevation that matches the railings and sconces. Wall sconces will provide some light to the balcony, porch, garages, and side entrance, and the front east elevation of the ground floor will have storefront windows. We sent out 18 notices to surrounding property owners within 200 feet. We received 1 response in favor, 1 in opposition, and the letter in opposition had concerns about multifamily units and stated that it was his understanding that Old Town was a single-family residential community, landlord versus owner-occupied. And this is landlord versus owner-occupied. And so we sent out 135 courtesy notices and did not receive any responses, and that's within the 800 feet. The Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval of this request, subject to the following outstanding conditions: that detailed engineering review to take place with engineering permit submittal. The Director of Community Development shall have the authority to administratively approve proposed signage for this development in accordance with the Plan Development Regulations for PD 250R8H and the Historic District. And the third condition is the second floor residences shall be developed in accordance with local ordinance and building codes and shall be used for residential purposes only. To elaborate on the third condition, the intent of this condition is to ensure that the building is designed in accordance with the mixed-use requirements of the building code. That includes the fire separation between the floors. And any change in proposed use would need to come back through the zoning process and permitting process. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for questions and the applicants in the audience. Thank you.
Council, you have any questions for Mr. Steer? Councilmember Hill.
My first question is, it's a commercial use. Does that include restaurants?
Yeah, retail use does not include a restaurant, so they'll have to come back through the process if they want. It's more intense. It's a more intense type of use. So that requires more parking, 1 per 100 square feet as opposed to 1 per 200 square feet.
Okay, and then the next question, I don't see any accessible parking out front. How are they handling that?
Right, so we'll analyze that during the building permit process.
Okay. Sounds good. And then the other question about it, that the one person in opposition wrote about, the single-family requirements. Is that not applicable in this zoning district?
That it be a single-family?
Yes.
Unit. There are actually 2 single-family units on the second floor.
But they're rental, they're not condos that someone's going to buy, right?
Correct, yes. Yeah, so that's not part of the zoning.
So it's multifamily, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Councilmember John?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I think you mentioned something about there's a separation between the residence and the retail by brick. Is that?
Yeah, that was just the decorative element, the banding of the brick. But there is a fire separation requirement for the building code.
With the garage in the back and the retail spaces in the front, the dividing wall, is there some sort of a reinforced wall requirement, or is it just?
I'm not sure. We'll analyze that during the building code review process.
All the others that have the garage on the bottom floor with the live work, and the front with the retail spaces, has there been a dividing wall where it's been reinforced just in case if the car?
I'm not absolutely sure on that, but definitely we'll make sure it meets the building code.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Council, any other questions for Mr. Steer? All right, our applicant, I believe, is here. That would be Mr. Peck. Do you have any comments to make with us?
Bill Peck, William Peck and Associates, 105 West Main, Louisville. Mayor, Council, I'm mainly here if you guys have any other questions. Matt and the staff have done a great job of filling you in on everything that we've been going through with it. We have done pretty much everything else in the development out there, so we're very familiar with the guidelines with it. The separation, one thing to address, the separation of the garage and the retail is going to be the same as the separation from retail to the residential up above. So you have a 1-hour fire barrier, both horizontal and vertical.
Thank you very much.
Anything else we can help you with?
Council, any questions? All right, thank you very much. This is a public hearing. Ms. Owens, do we have anybody signed up to speak?
No, sir.
All right, we do not have anybody signed up to speak, so I'm going to forego the reading of all of that stuff. Council, do you have any other questions or comments to make? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion. Councilmember Nevels.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to close the public hearing and to approve agenda item 11 with conditions listed on the screen.
Thank you. And I have a second by Councilmember Long. All in favor?
Just waiting for Mr. Long. I know.
We're just,
Long, Carroll, Nevels, Dunn, Hill, in favor, none opposed, motion carries.
thank you very much. Sorry for the delay there, but we were verifying that Councilmember Long was not within 200 feet of the property, so just to make sure it was a valid vote, and he is not. All right, item number 12 is a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing and consider a resolution granting a distance variance of 241 feet to St. Anne's Catholic Parish for a temporary event from the 300-foot prohibited requirement for the on-premise sale of alcoholic beverage with an address being 180 Samuel Boulevard and authorizing the mayor to sign. Ms. Owens.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, my name is Ashley Owens. I serve as the city secretary. The item before you tonight is a public hearing to request a 241-foot distance variance for St. Anne's Catholic Parish, and this is specifically for their upcoming carnival. St. Anne's is located at 180 Samuel Boulevard, and I just confirmed with the applicant, but this is the first time that St. Anne's will be selling alcohol at their annual carnival this year. The dates and times for the carnival will be Friday, September 9th, beginning at 6 p.m., and will end at 11 p.m., and will end at 11 p.m. on that Friday. Saturday, the hours will be 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., and then Sunday, the hours will be 1 to 6 p.m. So, the slide shows an aerial site plan of St. Anne's with a 300-foot radius around the building. As you can see, there are 2 schools and 1 church within 300 feet of the location of the carnival. Section 6-16-3 of the city's Code of Ordinances prohibits the sale of alcohol within 300 feet of a church, public or private school. Coppell Early Care and Education, located at 103 Samuel Boulevard, is located 59 feet away from St. Anne's. That is why I'm here before you tonight for a variance. So the request for a variance is temporary, and if granted, the distance variance will begin at 12:01 a.m. on Thursday, September 8th, 2022, and then it will end at 12:01 a.m. Monday, September 12th. St. Anne's is required to receive approval from local officials in order to obtain a Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission permit for their temporary event. And Section 6-16-4 of the Code of Ordinances speaks to council's discretion to allow for variances. So this slide shows an aerial site plan of St. Anne's Carnival layout. You'll see different activities around their parking lot. The circled item titled Sports Bar will be where the alcohol is sold. The requester has been informed, and then I confirmed with TABC that patrons are allowed to mingle and roam on the premises of St. Anne's during their carnival. But they are not allowed to leave the premises with alcohol in hand. Again, I would like to remind council that the request for variance is temporary, and if granted, it will only cover the dates and times of the carnival. A notice of public hearing was placed in the Irving Rambler on July 30th, and as of the posting of this agenda, the city secretary's office has not received any feedback. The applicants are here tonight with me, so if we have any questions for me, or if you have any questions for the applicant, we'll be happy to answer them. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Council, do you have any questions for Ms. Owens or the applicant? Councilmember John.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Owens,
Yes, sir.
the notice was only published in the Irving Rambler?
Yes, sir. That is the city's paper of record. We are required to have a paper of record approved by ordinance that has general circulation in the area of the city. At one time, we did attempt to go out to the Coppell Gazette, but they do not have the permit that is required to be a paper of record.
Okay. Okay. And that's the same thing with, I guess, the Chronicles, right?
That is correct. It's not a paper of general circulation and does not hold a permit. Mhm.
Okay. And then I have a question for the applicant.
Of course.
I was wondering, I know there's really no way to control this, but is there a plan to, I guess, limit the drinks on certain, for each individuals, or is there a...
TABC, there has to be a certified server, and it's the same as if they were in any other place that was purchasing. So if you were in a bar, restaurant, that server is required to enforce not serving persons that are intoxicated.
Okay. And is there a plan to, I don't know if there is, but if it's feasible or not, but people that are actually driving off from parking lot to ensure they're not intoxicated too much?
So, thank you for the opportunity to address the council here. As Robert suggested, the liability really falls to the server, the TABC, and that's where their licensing comes into play. Coppell Police, Coppell Fire, 1,700 volunteers over the weekend will be educated into our safety environment. And when or if a scenario were to arise where someone appeared to be intoxicated, the communication throughout the entire platform is way above average, and it could be addressed within seconds. So, yeah.
Councilmember Nevels.
So, and just so you kind of understand, so the idea is, from what I understand, it's a beer garden. So
Yes.
will there only be beer sold?
Beer and wine.
Beer and wine. Okay.
Beer and wine, and the concept would be to just keep it very simple, very straightforward. So.
And then just a question for
Yeah.
for our city attorney. So there would be no difference with this. By granting this variance, there would be no difference in the requirements from another restaurant in town that would be serving beer and wine. They would follow the same rules, same regulations, so it wouldn't be anything outside of what a standard restaurant would that already serves in our town, correct?
Correct. It's my understanding, looking at the application, that they have a qualified caterer that owns a catering license that will be serving the beer and wine and be responsible for the dispensing of the alcoholic beverages on. And by the way, this is Tim Barr, if you don't know Tim. So.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for coming in and answering questions. Appreciate it.
I had one question, if you don't mind.
Oh, yes.
So, will the police, will security be in place to keep people from wandering off the premise?
Absolutely, yeah. When you look at our site plan, there's only the north side of our property is really the site that is open, so to speak. We're hedge lined on our west side, hedge lined on our north side, or our south side rather, and our driveways are going to be controlled. Generally speaking, our police presence is stationed, and our fire department is stationed on the north end of our facility, which is actually the open area. But as I mentioned before, we have anywhere from 20 to 25 security individuals volunteering with handheld communication at all times during the event. So anything that pops up, we have immediate communication availability to not only Coppell Fire, but Coppell Police as well.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hill?
I did have one more question. Do you have any concerns of people, bringing their own and just, getting out of the trunk of their car?
So, that's a great question, and that's something that we actually talked about quite a bit prior to our decision to move forward with the, a request of a beer garden. And the reality is, to answer honestly, yes, but we don't, we really wouldn't know unless an individual becomes impaired and then it's obvious. And if that happens, like I said before, the eyes and ears of the communication and the command staff of our carnival are second to none. And that would be identified with relative ease, and it would be dealt with the appropriate authorities on staff.
Okay. I mean, you might consider people that are buying beer from the beer garden, you get a little bracelet like you do at a concert or something like that. And that way, anybody walking around with a beer that doesn't have a bracelet on.
Yeah, okay, I see where you're going now, yeah.
Just thought, I mean.
We do, and we will have a very, that's a great point, but we also will have a very strict menu. So if someone is seen carrying something that's not on our menu, we're going to know and we will address it appropriately. But I appreciate that offer. That's actually a very good point, so thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Council, any other questions? I will entertain a motion by Councilmember Nevels.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to close the public hearing and approve agenda item 12.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councilmember Hill. All in favor?
Long, Carol, Nevels, Jen Hill in favor, none opposed, the motion carries.
Thank you very much. Item number 13 is the city manager reports, project updates, and future agendas. Mr. Land. Yes. He's going to correct something I said earlier, so.
It's okay. Earlier on the item regarding the maximum tax rate to be advertised, the mayor mentioned about the 2 cents difference. Just for clarification, it was part of something that we discussed a lot during the budget workshops. With the defeasance of the debt for North Lake, meaning when we sold North Lake, that was 2 cents that was taken off the debt rate. So when Kim read the no new revenue rate and the voter approved rate, you heard it was a lot closer than 2 cents about the difference. So I just wanted I mentioned to the mayor when I heard it, it's like, that really is what we meant. And so I wanted to provide that clarification, Mayor.
Thank you.
Sure. Royal Lane partial asphalt overlay is complete. You know, that's part of the prolonging the life, if you will, of Royal until the time that we do the reconstruction. And we're looking at reconstruction starting after Beltline is completed. So that's in 2023. So just a little update on the water situation. Our residents are doing a great job of monitoring and taking care and conserving water and not overwatering. We changed our marketing, if you will, to be up to 2 times per week, and that seemed to help us some. We've broached 18 million once. The thing that we've started to notice, though, since early June, that this was the first week, meaning last week, we did not see an increase in the total water demand for the entire week. So hopefully that's a good indication. We got some cool weather tonight. It sprinkled. It just a little bit. It sprinkled. So anyway, so we continue to monitor that. You know, I've provided y'all some information on the decision-making process as far as what we're looking at regarding stage 2 and stage 3. And the primary issue that we are going to continue to watch is our tanks being able to refill. So as long as we're able to continue to maintain to do that, we're not going to push for stage 2. So hopefully we've got, 3 weeks or so and still 100-degree temperatures, and I don't know. We'll be watching very, very closely. And then there was a part of town, the Mockingbird Crestview area, the contractor has been doing some work on those panels. They did do locates for utilities and everything, but apparently when they were doing some work, and this has happened now twice, they've been doing some work on Mockingbird. The line locates for the gas lines were not 18 inches below as indicated at the bottom of the concrete. And so they've hit that twice, and so up to about 60 homes were impacted with it last night. So if you hear anything or anything on those lines, the contractor's working really closely. We did do the line locates. It's just that the line locates aren't exactly where, and I'm sure, Mark, you probably had some dealings with things like that before in your projects, just a little bit. So it's unfortunate, and, we understand the safety concerns, but we're working closely, and they're just about near through working in that particular section. So, Mayor, that is the amount of my reports.
Thank you very much. Item number 14 of Mayor and Council reports. I've got a big, long spiel on water conservation that the city manager just about covered. But just to reiterate, we're encouraging our residents to irrigate up to 2 days per week with no outside watering except by hand from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So coming up we have Andy Brown Eats on Thursday, August the 11th from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. Head on out to Andy Brown East stop by and grab some grub from the F&F Express food truck to take home with you and enjoy, or have dinner in the park. Also, senior water and sewer rates. If you are 65 years and older, then you qualify for a 10% discount on your water bill. Senior citizens must provide a copy of their driver's license or other form of identification listing their birth date to the Utility Billing Department at h2obills@coppelltx.gov. This discount is not available retroactively, but will be applied to your next billing cycle. Specific rates are available on our website. If you have any questions, please contact the Utility Billing Department. Item number 15 is public service announcements concerning items of community interest with no council action or deliberation allowed. Council, do we have any public service announcements? Seeing none, item number 16, there was no necessary action from the executive session. So item 17, there being no further business before this council, we are adjourned at 8:27 p.m.